Hey guys, today I want to go ahead and actually talk about common mistakes in sales interviews. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is because I see them all the time, and honestly, it's getting a little frustrating, especially when I want to put you in a position and I want you to succeed and get to where you want to go. So, there's a few common things that I'm actually going to talk about that if this is you, pay attention. If not, well, hope you have a great laugh. Um, First thing is make sure you know exactly what you're applying for. We do have it from time to time where because it's a phone setting, we do get the ones that are like, oh, um, I only wanted to do DM setting. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're applying for a phone setting, then yeah, that just looks like you're not really reading, you're not paying attention. And actually some of the biggest things is that then, are you paying attention? Because then even if let's say that we had a DM position available, that doesn't really give us the most confidence that you're actually going to pay attention to what's required and you're just willing to do whatever it takes, which can be good and bad, but in this context is more taken as bad. Okay. So that is definitely the first thing to also to keep in mind as far as that. The other thing is that when they go ahead and explain instructions, if you have questions, ask. That's perfectly fine. But don't keep asking the same question multiple times, especially in a short period of time. What I mean by this is if I tell you that, okay, the position comes with 10% when it comes to just the commission. Okay. And you come back and go, what was the commission? First time it's like, okay, maybe you missed it because you maybe were trying to write it down and you just missed a couple things. That's fine. But we get people who actually ask it 2 to 3 different times within the same time period, which actually makes us like, are you paying attention? Are you listening? Because the thing with sales is you do have to actively listen. So if you cannot retain what I say, even after I repeat it, then I question the quality of your work. So that's one of the big ones as well. Now, if we go ahead and because I'm looking here at the different things that have happened in interviews, and some of them are very interesting, to say the least, right? So my favorite is cold callers. Cold callers or self-improvements. Okay. Now, there's nothing wrong with cold callers specifically, or people who try to learn by themselves. There's nothing actually wrong here. The problem is they come in with one expectation and that doesn't meet what the actual expectations are. Just because cold callers make a lot of outbound calls doesn't mean it can go in any outbound sales. Because the way that closers, well, these particular cold callers are actually trained, you need to catch their attention within maybe a 5 second span, which means you go straight into an elevator pitch. Outbound and high ticket sales, you do not go into an elevator pitch. Okay. The only time that you ever think about doing an elevator pitch is if they're like, well, what is it that you do? Right? Then you give them even a shorter version because you don't want to even give too much of that away. Not because you're trying to hide anything, but you also don't want them too focused on thinking you're trying to sell them something, especially when cold callers typically do that and they go right on into kind of the pitch. It then puts up everybody's walls and they think that you're just there to sell them. So that's why typically with cold callers, it's not the best experience, even with an interview, although we still go through the skill assessment just in case. Just in case. I think out of maybe 15 cold callers that come through, only one of them actually surprised me on what they already knew, how they acted, and everything along those lines. So, but they didn't have just pure outbound experience with cold calling. So there is that. Um, so the other thing as well is if you are one of those where it is just self-improved and you're just learning by YouTube and stuff like that, make sure you're able to find calls or people that have been in the industry and role play with them. See how they do it. Even if you're just like, hey, I'm going to jump on these calls, like real calls, and I'm going to be the prospect. to observe what's going on. Because too many times I get it where they're completely off because they have only bits and pieces of the information. YouTube is not designed to give a whole course structure. It's not. And the people that might use it for that, it's very far and few in between. That's why typically when I say, have you had any sales training? If I hear self training or cold caller, that you were trained on the job with that, or even people that say, oh, I've only been trained with the company, I get a little hesitant because I'm like, okay, this could possibly go in a very terrible direction really quick. Okay. So if you fit those categories, please make sure either you invest in a training program. If you're interested in actual coaching program as far as for high ticket sales, reach out to me. I know of a few that are actually really good. And I know one specifically where I'm actually involved in it. So you can always just feel free to reach out and then we can see what we can do. Um, if you're one of those where it's just like, well, yeah, but I don't exactly have a lot of money. I don't know where to start or different things like that. The first thing I'm going to question is if you're not willing to invest in yourself to build up on the skill to get where you want to go, how are you going to tell the prospect to invest in themselves to build themselves to where they want to go? Because now you're just walking contradiction. So you kind of will also have a lack of conviction when you're on the phone. So I do challenge you to think about that a little bit. If you're that person that either doesn't have training, not looking for training, thinking that YouTube's enough. Okay. If you've had training, that's a whole different thing. Although I do recommend learning from different people, as that's very helpful. Typically, YouTube is a way to also blend styles because you get the little bits and pieces and you have that foundation to build in the gaps. Okay. So that's one also possibility. Of course, keep learning and investing in other coaching programs as well, but they don't have to be also expensive, right? But you have to be able to resonate with them. So that's going to be key. Okay. Um, Also, if you're a cold caller, understand what a role play is, please. Um, Most cold callers understand what this dynamic is. Okay. I get the few occasions where they're more confused because I didn't give them a lot of information on the product. Now, the thing is when you're a setter or closer, in order to do the qualification process, you don't need to know a whole lot. Okay. You really don't. The only time you need it is, of course, the pitch, and then objection handling. You will need some, which is what I provide on my role plays, in order to actually make that progress. Okay. But I give you enough information, you're able to, take it from there. And of course, especially with role plays, I also give you guys a little bit of grace where it's like, just use common sense of the industry. So keep that in mind. Um, when it comes to a role play as well, you want to be confident. Okay. I don't care if you're new. I don't care if you've been doing this for 20 years. Be confident. Because if you're coming into that role play and you're like, okay, it's so how do you want to do this? Okay. Yeah, I guess I could do that. It's already showing me you're not confident in your own skills, which means it's not going to portray very well, first of all, in this call, and it's not going to portray well when you're actually on the phones. So you have to be confident. If you mess up, you mess up. Worst case scenario, okay, I didn't get it. Okay, no problem. Go back to the learning. Okay. That's going to be really more of the key. Okay. Um, Never and for all of the community here that is either cold caller or self-approved, anybody that's like in that area or super brand new, do not pitch prior to qualification. Okay? Don't pitch prior to qualification and don't set appointments prior to qualification. If you don't know what the qualification process is, it's basically BANT. B-A-N-T. If you don't know what that is, please go to one of my videos that actually explains what BANT is, as we're not going to fully explain it here. Once you have BANT, then you can set it, then you can go into your pitch and proceed forward. Okay. So even if you are a cold caller, understanding that you have to qualify based on BANT even prior to the phone to getting them to the appointment is going to be a huge thing for you guys, because it's almost a completely different dynamic. Okay. That's been a lot of the common stuff when I see that. Um, Also, if you are a setter going to closer, okay, have conviction if you're going to be the closer. If you go into an opportunity and say, I'm looking for a setter position, and then they ask you, okay, which position are you looking for? If they ask you the same question twice, more than likely they already know what the answer is. They just need you to confirm it and make sure you're on the same page. So if you say on your application setter, you come on and say closer, be careful because they will take whatever you say. So if you say closer, they're going to evaluate you as a closer. Okay. Now, if you want to be a closer, but you have more setting experience, you can say, I would like to be considered for the closer opportunity. However, I am open to the setter role, as that is where I have a lot of experience, but I am looking for closer positions. That tells them that you're open, but they really want that closer spot. Okay. Transparency is key when it comes to that. So definitely keep that in mind. Um, Also, when you go in to your interviews, they're going to ask you a couple questions that you may or may not be prepared with. The first would be if you had an experience, how much, like as far as years or months, and then your set to close percentage. So basically, out of how many appointments did you set actually became a close, and that'll then determine your actual percentage. They'll also want to know how many appointments you typically set in a day on average, right? So that's the other thing. Closers, it's going to be more of your closing percentage and your cash collected over the last 12 months. If you do not know, make an educated guess, but of course on the low side, and let them know that I don't have a full answer, but my estimation based on what I did is this, and I am keeping it modest. That way they know, okay, this is the lower end because you're not 100% sure. They will appreciate it and they'll either take it or leave it, right? So just keep that in mind as well. When they also, at least for me, when I say income expectations, I get a lot of everybody was fine with it for the longest time. And then I started getting mixed answers. And I'm like, what is going on? When it comes to income expectations, it's how much do you actually expect that you're going to earn? Or how much do you want to earn from this position? Okay. Um, if you're flexible with it, you can also say just pretty much what you need to survive. Like if you're like, how much are you looking to make from this opportunity? And let's say you don't really have a goal, but you know you need 2,000 to pay your bills. Say anywhere between 3 to 4. That's my minimum. Okay. The reason why is because you also, especially if they have multiple clients, you want to make sure you're not setting yourself up for automatic restriction of other clients that come down the road. Okay. So you could say, well, I want to make at least 10K on this opportunity, although all I need to really kind of, feel that it's worth it, at least for the opportunity, is a minimum of 5,000. You can even do that too. That way it's all on the same playing field as far as that. Okay. Now, for those of you who have been in an interview with me, um, I know a lot of you have had different experiences with probably other interviewers. I am one of those that like to coach you up versus just, okay, you're gone situation. And that's why I created this community. Now, with that being said, if you're in the community, don't watch my videos, try to apply for the position, and there's no reason that you shouldn't have gone through my videos, then that also communicates something to me that it's like, are you really interested in improving? Because if you have access to it, you don't actually do it, why are you here? Right? So those are just some also key things that's more specific to me. Since you guys are in this community, since a lot of you have already been interviewed or going to be interviewed, those are some really key aspects. Especially at the end of the interview, sometimes I'll send you off on a skill challenge. If you do the skill challenge and you succeed, then fantastic. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to end this video here. If you have any questions, put it into comments below. If you have anything specifically towards like interviews, role plays, anything else when it comes to that, definitely put it in the comments below. Or if you have a specific topic you would like me to actually talk about, please go ahead and put that into the comments below as well.